That's not my Morrigan. That's not my Dragon Age. This has nothing to do with Dragon Age. I don't accept it. I reject it.
The brain rot is real, folks. Uh, you got me up at 1:30 in the morning making a video, which like never happens. But I got up to take care of Pippin, and the comments on the video I published before I went to bed last night, it's absolutely hilarious. We're going to go through those comments here in a second. But essentially, we have someone who is adamant that this isn't their version. This isn't an actual Dragon Age representation of Morrigan. This is a made up Morrigan. He rejects this Morrigan. He rejects Dragon Age Veilguard. It's not, he's not going to accept it. This is the funniest shit ever, guys. This is really really good. So we're gonna go through this comment because I just can't. I can't even with some of these people. So this is the video. If you haven't watched it last night, it's a parody video that I did where we had fun with the meme of people saying that this game sucks, the dialogue sucks, it has nothing to do with the original Dragon Age games, and then we get this beautiful like 15-minute cutscene with Claudia Black back as Morgan, and she talks about um, the uh, the story of starting with her mother Flemeth and everything up till this point. And it's all about Solus and Mythal, and it's amazing. And it really ties the four games together, and it shows this overarching story. And then I read this. Now this got posted right before I went to bed. This guy, Prastegas 3, this is not the Dragon Age Morgan. And I simply responded, it's 100% the same actress and the same character. And then I went to bed. I then wake up to take Pippin to the litter box and change her bandages. And I start reading the commentary here. And I was like, oh my God, this is the problem right here. This is the problem with a subset, the vocal minority of people out there who literally have this version of the canon inside their heads. It's like the same people who say that like the extended universe of Star Wars is the true canon and that George Lucas's canon was never real because we don't like midichlorians and fuck Jar Jar Binks and fuck Disney. Disney's never going to be my Star Wars. This is the funniest shit ever. So I said it's 100% the same actress and the same character. And this guy says, that's true, but the dialogue, the attitude, the tone seems different than the Morgan I've known from the trilogy. If this is a completely new game, this would be fine, but I'm an old fan. Cannot unseen what I've seen or unhear what I've heard. Buddy, we've all played the original games since launch. The difference is we're not delusional with the character development and the story arc from the beginning. So I love the replies here. Lovely Ray came back and said, so when you saw Alistair, Morrigan, and Hawk in Inquisition, they were the same to you from previous games? Morrigan has definitely matured as a person. The things weighing her down in the Dragon Age Origins years are years past removed. Her core personality is the same, which is snarky and knowledgeable. No, she doesn't look exactly the same because of the art style and design, but to say this isn't Morrigan, you're either misremembering her or choosing not to like her now for whatever reasons you have. And then Gitchpunk says, as a person who played the series in the lead up to Veilguard, this is definitely that Morrigan. You just seem to fail to realize that she's had 23 years since Origins and around 9 or 10 years since Inquisition to grow, realize what's at stake, make new memories, and experience new things. And the change that comes with effectively having the memories of multiple lifetimes in her mind. It's called character development. Characters are allowed to grow and change, you know, like people do. I love that comment, by the way. And then Mage D15 says, Morgan has not been singularly or rigidly consistent in her dialogue, tone, or attitude, whatever those broad, undefined, and arbitrary terms mean to you, among her two previous distinct appearances within Origins and Inquisition either. She's a dynamic and evolving character, as a well-written character should be. As such, her character has varied substantially among appearances. Indeed, her character has varied even with her appearances. Among all three of her appearances in the series, she has been evolving as a character and speaking to different The character is thus presenting different aspects of herself in doing so. You may have the ideas about what Morrigan should be, but that is a purely flattened aesthetic which you have fabricated around her, an imposition that is irrelevant to her character and its development with the 3 games she has appeared in. God, you guys rock. These comments are amazing. You guys are all literary. I love it. It is irrational to expect that a character be entirely identical with the arbitrarily rigid construct that you, a single player, have invented for them in your mind alone. Oh, what a burn. You may have seen or heard some things regarding a character, but that does not mean you know everything about a character, nor does what you've seen or heard prevent a character from changing. Characters can, do, and should evolve beyond one's initial perceptions of them. Characters can and should change, just as characters can and should present distinct aspects of themselves in different contexts. This is a brand new entry to the series, and her character should not be flattened for the sake of perceived continuity, which, for your fearful self, is an aesthetic that hinges upon the stagnation of characterization after a point which you alone dictate, especially because in universe she is 23 years older than her first appearance, and time changes people. She is speaking as someone she is unfamiliar with, and she now, since her last appearance in Dragon Age Inquisition, has the memories of one of the Illuminarius within her mind. In regards to the real continuity, it would be bad writing if she was completely unchanged from previous iterations. It's just that here, your vapid aesthetic construct comes to blows with the reality of both what Morrigan was and what Morrigan is now, neither of which aligns with the fabrication in your mind of the character. Your apparent expectation that well-rounded characters are trapped in amber and turned into one-dimensional stereotypes of themselves to appease those afraid of change and growth is antithetical to good literary practices. God, what a brilliant comment. Okay. To say my observations of her in the past 3 games as a rigid construct is a warning sign of your close-mindedness. Her progression was consistent in the past 3 games, but this one went further than the rest. It just doesn't feel like her in mannerisms, and a feeling resonated with her as I had in the past through dialogue, attitude, or tones. This is not Dragon Age Morrigan. But Varric and Solus seem to be on point with their progression, which I wonder why Morrigan isn't. So while this may be fine for some of you, I'm not able to shut down my brain and pretend otherwise, or justify it using time progressions, which is just about new writers' whims. By the way, the writers on this team also worked on the previous games. This is a brand new entry to the series, and her character should not be. Okay, hang on. This is where he's quoting. Um, as with many retcons happening to older game series these days, reaching wider audiences while forsaking the older ones is a conscious choice made by the developer. As part of the older fans, we can make the conscious choice by rejecting some of the changes. You like it? Go buy more copies at full price to support it. They're going to need it. I'm part of the older fans, and I reject your premise, sir or madam, whoever you are, Prestigious 3. Um, I actually appreciate character development, as do the people commenting and responding to you in this thread. He then responds to the next person by saying, it's a crutch to explain the difference between games. She can be written consistently with believable progression, if the writers deem it so. Varric and Solus are both fine with consistent progression, but not her, it seems. It is believable progression versus unbelievable progression. I agree with the progression of them in Inquisition. I don't believe it in Veilguard because the dialogue is lacking and facial expressions are awkward, thus not as immersive as before. Nothing I said about her was about her new model. You can accept this downgrade, but I can't. Not at full price anyway. Simple as that. So he's going on these rants about how it's not believable progression, and yet everyone is pointing out the fact that it is believable progression. And the whole video I did last night, which he's responding to, he, she, they, whatever. Um, I guarantee you they're not a they. They are not a they them. Um, The dialogue is lacking, which we showed to be unequivocally false. The dialogue is absolutely stellar. And then this one, her facial expressions are awkward, thus not as immersive as before. But then he goes on to say, I'm not talking about her new character model. Yes, you are. The facial expressions in this game are leaps and bounds beyond what the facial expressions were in the first games because the technology has advanced by 20 years from Origins. You have, and this goes back to what we've talked about how a lot of these people played these games when they were like 12 years old, 15 years old, and the memories they have as teenagers of what Dragon Age Origins was is trapped in amber, which somebody mentioned that here later on in the comments, and they've been unwilling and incapable of moving on from that because they have these teenage memories that are tied to it. It's a real thing. It's like the people who get to be 60 years old and still say that the bands from when they were 15 to 20 years old are the best bands that ever existed, and no music that has come since then is as good as those discs were, or that their favorite band had the best music and it was always the music that when they were 15 to 20 years old, and every album that the band has done since then is absolute bullshit, and they were better when that drummer was in the band or when that guitarist was in the band. This is funny, man. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. And then we have rebuttals. Gitchpunk coming back and saying, again, she's written consistently. Her maturing as a person is natural. Hell, she still carries the echoes of some of her fears from her journeys and origins, explained in this sequence, which we showed last night. She's still sharp-tongued, still thirsts for knowledge, still cares more than she's willing to let on, and hides her fears behind sharp tongue and mysterious persona. She's also been spending close to a decade with the memories of a godlike mage, and assumingly her extension of her own mother as well. And I don't think one can go through what Morrigan has and not go through both minor and severe changes. So as other people have said, you either don't remember Morrigan particularly well, or you grossly misunderstood her as a character. And please don't pull the old fan, real fan crap. I've been with the series since day one. So have I. Anybody who's loving Dragon Age Veilguard, pretty much all of us are old fans and love BioWare as we've gone on. He comes back and says, while you can accept the downgrade and justify the dialogue writing, I cannot, not at full price. So he's repeating the same thing. I don't want to play full price. I don't accept the downgrade. The writing sucks. Again, this is the reason we made the parody video for the people who say that the writing sucks and it has nothing to do with the previous. So this is exactly the response that we expected to get from the parody video, and this is brilliant because the the people we wanted to fall for this are falling for it. Hook, line, and sinker. Not my Dragon Age. Not my Dragon Age. um, This isn't a downgrade. You just can't seem to actually point to anything. You're just vaguely waving your arms around at some nebulous fault you can't seem to actually provide evidence for. I don't need your permission to like or enjoy a good game, nor does anywhere else, but I'm not going to feed your superiority complex. You keep talking about something that other people are enjoying as a downgrade to a false ideal you seem to hold for a game that I'm frankly not sure exists anywhere outside of your head, and that's totally true. Um, Then he tries to backtrack and say, you don't want to respect my different opinion. It's pointless trying to prove that you're right and I'm wrong. It's subjective after all. I'll let the total sales number provide if this game resonates with the mass audiences that BioWare is aiming for or not. He comes back to the sales thing, right? We'll let the sales numbers provide. Oh, man. Well, believe it when you take your own advice. Your response to every person who has a different opinion than yours has been a holier than thou. Well, you can accept the downgrade, but I cannot, for I am an old fan, a true fan. Ah. Guys, this is exactly the response we were looking for when we made that parody video, because it was specifically made to poke fun at the meme of people who are out there saying, the writing sucks. These characters aren't the real characters. There's nothing that ties this game to the previous games. This is an actual Dragon Age. And they have this vision in their head, this version in Amber of back when they were like 10 years old, 12 years old, 15 years old, and they can't accept good writing. They can't accept character development. They want those characters to remain stuck the way they saw them when they were 12 years old, 15 years old. The idea that they think that her facial expressions and the mocap and the character presentation of Morrigan in this game is a downgrade, as well as the writing being a downgrade, man, huge props to Claudia Black for coming out of retirement even. They got her out of retirement to come do this role again, which shows the power of this character for her as an actress. And I think that saying that the character isn't Morrigan is absolutely a slap in the face to Claudia Black, who has represented this character since day one and is an integral part of this series. So, No, Prestigus 3, we reject your premise that this isn't actually Dragon Age Morrigan. This is absolutely Dragon Age Morrigan, 100%, and this is how an actual character develops over time rather than being stuck in that 15-year-old mentality. So I look forward to providing more entertainment for all of you because we're going to continue to make memes and poke fun at this stuff because it's just too silly not to laugh at. Daily streams every single day, usually at 9 a.m. Excuse me, not Mountain anymore. We're on Central Time because of daylight savings. 8, 9 o'clock in the morning is usually when we start playing Dragon Age Veilguard right now. We're moving on to Stalker 2. We've got the story DLC for Star Wars Outlaws. We got Indiana Jones and the Great Circle coming up in December, and we got also Path of Exile 2 early access. Ton of great stuff happening. We'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there. Happy gaming. Don't let that brain rot get to you, kids.